Good afternoon and welcome honored judges, visiting royalty, assembled guests. My name is Sasha Reynolds and I'm the current Miss White Rock and one of your MCs for the evening. We would like to begin by acknowledging that our program takes place on the shared, unceded territory of the Semiahmoo, Katzie, Stolo, Wasanich, and Kwantlen First Nations, and the broader territory of the Coast Salish peoples. In light of the current pandemic, we have made many changes to our program to be sure we are following provincial safety guidelines. As you can see, we are all using Zoom right now for our public speaking spectacular and have posted all of our candidates' recorded talents on our website and Instagram. This year is a little different as we have extended our current candidates' candidacy, and myself and the current team will be staying on for another year. On August 8th, we will be holding an in-person distanced crowning ceremony for our new ambassadors. We encourage you all to watch today's event in speaker view and to allow closed captions to get the full experience. You can select this at the top right corner of your Zoom screen. We will now be turning off your cameras and microphones for the event so we can better hear our MCs and candidates. The first public speaking event is both a thrill and a fright for candidates and ambassadors alike. For the candidates, this is their first event and public introduction. For us current royalty, it is a relief to finally not be the ones being judged. We are fortunate to have a panel of public speaking experts with us today on Zoom. With us today are Debbie Ward and Donna Beaudry, who co-ran the White Rock Youth Ambassador program for many years and are very familiar with it. Monica Neville and Bob Milliken, both amazing Toastmasters who coached our girls in crafting and presenting a speech and answering impromptu questions. And finally, Thomas Harding, our guest judge who has a master's in English, has competed as a debater, and been a lawyer since 1990. We want to thank all of our judges for attending today's event. We would also like to thank the HIAC ambassadors for joining us this afternoon. Your support is greatly appreciated.
Hello, my name is Ella Ramsey, and I am a current White Rock princess. I will also be one of your MCs. This afternoon, you will be hearing speeches written and performed by the candidates on topics they chose themselves. After they have presented, we will ask them each a unique impromptu question. During their first few months of candidacy, the girls have also already completed a community essay, committee interview, and multiple online training sessions. The talent and speech night is an important part of the candidates' journey through the program. The speech is important to help the candidates gain confidence in public speaking and learn all the proper aspects of it. Without further ado, let's get started.
Good afternoon. My name is Sophie. I am a current White Rock Princess and Friendship Ambassador. I too will be one of your MCs. First to present her speech is Mariana Cardenas Sepulveda. Before we hear from Mariana herself, let's learn a little bit about her. Mariana seems to be a bit of a daredevil, as the #1 item on her bucket list is to go paragliding. Good for her. I wouldn't be caught dead in the sky. Mariana also shared that if she was an animal, she would be a penguin because, as she said, they are clumsy but very funny, loyal, and loving with their families. We have also noticed through our interaction on Zoom how Mariana is supportive of all her fellow candidates and is always one to crack a joke. Without further ado, here is Mariana and her speech entitled Embracing Change.
We are always in a state of transition. If you're not, then it means you're not moving, growing, or living. Good evening, assembled guests, fellow candidates and ambassadors, and most honorable judges. Tonight, I'm going to be telling you something that I hope will stay with you forever, like it did with me. Change. Most specifically, embracing change. Sometimes knowing that life is uncertain can make us feel confused, worried, or even unbalanced. I'll give you a little backstory on myself. I was born and raised in Quindío, Colombia. In fact, I lived there until I was 13. I lived what I thought was a perfect life. That was going to be it for me. I belonged there and I never wanted to leave. Until one day, this man came to my life. Jeremy, my mother's husband. With him came change. He meant losing what my life had been, having a new father, which at the beginning I didn't like, We would move to Canada and leave everything behind, and I was sad because it wouldn't be the same. We would have to get adjusted to a new culture and a new life, and I didn't want anything to do with it. Sometimes we get stuck where we feel safe, be it a job you've had for a while, old relationships, the city you grew up in, or even the food you always get at your favorite restaurant. We feel like if we're safe, then we should stay there. We shouldn't burst out of that bubble because change means uncertainty. The concept of comfort zone is amazing just as it is dangerous. Let me tell you why. Your comfort zone impedes you from improving. It doesn't let you experience new things. It stops you from achieving new things that you know you're capable of. You might feel like if you stay in your comfort zone, then you're in control. After all, there's no surprises, right? In my case, I rejected Jeremy and all that came with him. As soon as I realized that he was going to be a big part of my life, I fell apart. I had gotten used to the idea of just me and my mom, and I loved that life. However, without realizing, I was missing out on the love that Jeremy offered me and the opportunities that Canada would offer as well. So, over time, I began accepting the idea and I became happy. It is in human nature to be curious, explore, and discover. Because of that, we must learn to let go. And even though it may take some time, it is so crucial to be continuously reaching for more. This is how we can live a rich life. I learned that, and now I can say I'm living the best life I can. Uncertainty is good. Being prepared to receive whatever comes our way is good. But being positive about it, that's even more important. If we learn how to embrace change, when we look back into our lives, all the amazing experiences, those are the things that we'll remember. Embracing change has made me know myself better. If you surround yourself with people who embrace change, they will help you do that too. You will get an open mindset and you will be more likely to enjoy spontaneous moments. Jeremy is an incredible example for that. His life changed just as much or even more. He now has 2 loud and crazy Colombian women in his family. And believe me, he loves his quiet time. After seeing how he adapted, though, it became easier for me to do that. There's a quote by Heraclitus that goes, "The only thing that's constant is change." And that's true. After all, change is happening to all of us, so why not embrace it? There are some things that you can do to learn how to love change. Things like trying new foods, movies, shows, clothing styles, or even just going out and explore. Lastly, feel yourself grow. It is probably the most rewarding feeling when you can see how far you've come from all the risks you've taken. As you embark on a new adventure, begin a learning process, seek new friends, and explore new areas of interest. It's been 4 years, and I'm confident to tell you that us moving to Canada has been the biggest change in my entire life. We have grown, learned, and changed all in our time together. And in the end, we embraced change, and that's something that I will never regret. Assembled guests.
Thank you, Mariana, for sharing. It is important to learn from everyone's experience. Hello, my name is Karina, and I am a White Rock Youth Ambassador. I'm also the final MC for this afternoon's event. Now that we have heard Mariana's speech, it is time for her impromptu question. And this is the first time she will be hearing this question. Mariana, I will read the question to you twice. Your question is, why is a sense of humor important? Again, your question is, why is a sense of humor important?
I believe a sense of humor is important because it can help lighten moods that are very sad and that are very deep. Sense of humor can help you go through life technically. You can make friends, you can make connections with people by making jokes and laughing at having same interests. That's what I believe a sense of humor is. It might help you get through life really easily, and you'll be able to have a very enjoyable life and a very happy life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. Next to present her speech is Emily Chen. A fun fact about Emily is that she has kept a bullet journal for 2 years, and she loves the freedom it gives her to doodle. The quote Emily chooses to live by is, "Expect nothing, be grateful for everything." She said that in our current climate, it is important to be grateful for the small things, to think about everything she has to be grateful for. Throughout our time with Emily, we have seen her constantly thinking about how the girls in the program are doing, and she was always there to lend a helping hand. Without further ado, here is Emily and her speech entitled, Stop Hearing and Start Listening.
Remember the last time you had an argument with someone? Now think about it. When you were arguing passionately with that person, did you listen to what they had to say? Some of you may say, yes, of course I did. But was it really listening? Because listening, it's not just about hearing the words out of someone's mouth. It's about hearing them, understanding them, and processing them. That is what listening is. Honorable judges, youth ambassador, fellow candidates, and welcome guests. I'm here today to encourage you to stop hearing and start listening. Now, what is the difference between hearing and listening? Well, hearing, it's something all of us do. It's involuntary. If there's a noise, you hear it. It's as simple as that. But listening, however, is not so easy. You need to make an active choice to listen. And you may even need to practice how to listen. And I would even argue listening means for you to understand and process the information. Now think about how many times you blur out someone's voice at the back of your head, or how many times you nod at something without even processing what they said. And maybe you're already bored. Maybe you're just hearing the words out of my mouth and not actually listening to them. But let me tell you why listening is so important. Listening is important anywhere, from the workplace to with your friends and family, because listening, it's the key to communication and a healthy relationship. People tend to think communication, it's all about talking, right? But it's not. It focuses so much on listening. There's a reason why we have 2 ears and a mouth. We should listen at least twice as much as we talk. Now you may want to know, how do I become a better listener? Well, obviously there isn't a course you can take. However, I want to share a personal story of how I learned to stop hearing and start listening. I learned to listen through debate. Now this sounds ironic. Debate, it's all about talking. No, it focuses a lot on listening and listening to others. When I first started debate, I heard many amazing speakers. I remember vividly this one time. I was sitting in a huge classroom at UBC, listening on the grand final. And I was so mesmerized by the speakers. I thought, how could you possibly disagree with them? Their ideas, it seemed to be flawless. But I wasn't listening to them. I was hearing the way they speak and got convinced by the sound that I heard. And now after 3 years of actively practicing listening, I know if I had really listened, I would realize there were flaws. And if I had really made the conscious effort to listen, I would realize those speakers, they were not as good as I made them out to be. It wasn't impossible to argue against them. Now, I have practiced listening, and I do my best to listen to the people around me every single day, which has helped me realize when I listen to others more, they return the favor and listen to me more. So if you have ever felt frustrated because others aren't listening to you, try listening to them first, and maybe that is your solution. Now, listening is hard, but it's far from impossible. All you need to do is make the conscious effort to listen. So I encourage every single one of you to try to stop hearing and start listening. And maybe the next time you're in an argument, instead of arguing back, you can say, I can see where you're coming from. How about a compromise? Now, I hope you listened to my speech today. And if you did, thank you for listening. Assembled guests.
Thank you, Emily. I loved listening to your speech. Now that we have heard Emily's speech, it is time for her impromptu question. This is the first time she has heard this question. Emily, I will read the question to you twice. Your question is, what are the benefits of growing older? Again, your question is, what are the benefits of growing older?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sasha, for that question. I think, growing old, it's something all of us have to go through, and it's really important to think about what benefits brings. For me, I always wanted to be older. When I was a little kid, I always dreamed of, being able to work, being able to live alone, and that thought excited me. And I think growing older, really the most important benefit it brings is it helps us learn and grow. I think with more time that we spend on this earth, we learn something new every single day. And I think for me, even with my short time with the program from last November, I have learned a lot. And I think with growing older, what we get is the valuable lessons and the people that we get to meet in our lives. And I think that's extremely important. I got the privilege to meet all of the ambassadors and my fellow candidates in this program through my short time here. And I think I will continue to do that as I grow older and meet more new people and learn more lessons. And I think it is so important to realize that while we're growing older, we're being able to see so much more, meet so many new people, and learn so many lessons. And I think that is the greatest benefit that I can imagine from growing older. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Next to present her speech is Adiba Chowdhury. Adiba shared with us that her favorite movie is Good Will Hunting, as she loves seeing the intricacies of each character. The movie has actually inspired her to become a psychiatrist. Adiba also shared that her favorite thing about living in White Rock is the tight-knit community, making it feel more like a home and a family. From our interactions with Adiba, we have really seen her become more confident and always step up to help both the committee and fellow candidates. Without further ado, here's Adiba and her speech entitled Speechless.
Let's set the scene. You're in your classroom and the bell just rang. It's a new school week, meaning a new major assignment. Although all you are thinking about is the upcoming basketball tryout, the math quiz, or the science test, because you need to ace that. Finally, your teacher gets up and writes on the board in huge letters, speech, and your heart drops. You haven't given a speech since 5th grade when you forgot all of your lines and sobbed for mom on stage. You still have nightmares about it. Now you're expected to write another speech and not cry? Honorable judges, youth ambassadors, fellow candidates, and welcome guests. Delivering speeches takes practice to master, but I'm here to tell you how I learned to make a stellar speech, a process that brought me from being that girl crying on stage to the spotlight today. First thing for me will be deciding on my topic. If it wasn't evident enough, even the simple idea of presenting a speech pushes me into an anxiety-riddled mess, which is why finding a great topic is the foundation of my speech. Ever since that day in 5th grade, I've steered away from overly emotional topics because honestly, runny mascara is never a good look on anyone. I always remember the key is to showcase my passions and why I'm motivated to present to an audience. Because if I'm not motivated, why should my audience be? Next up is drafting my speeches, which is a lengthy process, but a process that's worth all of the time in the world. Growing up, I've always loved writing, whether it was creative stories, essays, or poems. Yet, whenever I tried to tackle writing a speech, I realized just how different it was from writing anything else. When writing my speeches, I always remember to humanize myself. When you write a story, a persuasive essay, or a sonnet, the authors are hidden by their words and the writing is in the spotlight. However, during a speech, I'm in the spotlight, presenting for you right now. And I'll admit, all eyes on me is definitely something I can get used to. Sometimes I crack a one-liner, share a story about myself, but all the time I remember to continue just being me. Now, once my speech is prepared, it's time for the presentation. Being in front of an audience has never been my strong suit, yet I made it here. Whenever I practice my speeches, my mirror and cue cards become my best friends, and all my attention is given to them, much to my loved ones' distress. Between me and you, I think they're more happier that I'm presenting this than I am. I remember to ensure my composure, tone, and body language fits the speech I'm about to deliver. I have to remember not to move around like this because I don't want to scare you guys off. And it took hours of practice for my voice to sound confident because I soon realized that whispering or being too loud can ruin the speech, no matter how amazing my writing is. And honestly, it can ruin a few eardrums too. Ouch. I make sure to practice in front of a mirror, focusing on hand gestures, eye contact, and posture. I believe in the story I have to tell, and I believe in myself. Authoress. That's the meaning of my name, Adiba. If the clear passion for writing is evoked by my name, how was I unable to write and present a speech? Believe me, it did not happen overnight. It's not like I went to sleep and woke up speaking as eloquently as the Prime Minister. Although, now that I think about it, that would have been really helpful when I was younger. Let me tell you though, this long undertaking brought me from a tear-streaked 10-year-old to the confident presenter you see now. Finally, let's set the scene. It's a new week, meaning a new major assignment. Let me correct that. Although all I am thinking about is the upcoming basketball tryout, the math quiz, and the science test because I need to ace those. Finally, my teacher stands up and she writes on the board in huge letters, speech. And my heart soars. I got this. Assembled guests.
Thank you, Adiba. I can't wait to use these tips when I write my next speech. Now that we have heard Adiba's speech, it is time for her impromptu question. This is the first time she'll be hearing this question. Adiba, I will read the question to you twice. Your question is, what is one question you wish that you knew the answer to, and why? Again, your question is, what is one question you wish you knew the answer to, and why?
Thank you for giving me that question. One question that I wish I knew the answer to, and that I am sure that everyone wants to know the answer to, is what is the meaning of life? I feel like so many times people are questioning why they're existing, why they're here, why they are in that world, in that position right now. And I feel like you have to figure it out yourself. You can't just ask someone and they can't give you that answer. You have to figure it out yourself. And I feel like throughout my life, I've went through many obstacles, many bumps in the road, but I've also embraced it as much as I can. I genuinely have no regrets. And earlier in my life, earlier during high school, I would question, why am I here? What is the meaning of my life? Why was I born in this specific time? Why? And I wish I knew the answer to that. I really do. I wish I could embrace that answer and actually drive myself to become what I want to be. And honestly, like I said, you can't answer that. You can't have someone answer that for you. So what I've been doing is I've been embracing my life as much as possible. I know what my goals are, I know what I want to do, and I know that even though I don't know the meaning of life in general, I know the purpose of my own life, which is why I want to become a psychiatrist. I want to really help people, teenagers, kids, and their own mental health. And I believe that is so important right now. And I believe that although that might not be the meaning of everyone else's life, it's the purpose and meaning of my life.
Thank you, Adiba. Next to present her speech is Enoch Huang. When we asked Enoch who she would want to have coffee with, if it could be anyone in the world, she told us that she would want to talk to herself in 20 years to be able to learn from a different version of herself. The accomplishment Enoch is most proud of is the short film project she has started. Something we have loved seeing from Enoch is her creativity and how she brings her unique point of view to every situation. Without further ado, here's Enoch and her speech entitled Fish in the Sea.
Is it possible for a fish to become lost in the vast sea, slowly being washed away by the rising current of the sea? Honorable judges, ambassadors, fellow candidates, welcome guests. The majority of you here wouldn't exactly think it's possible for a fish to become lost in the sea. You'd say, well, isn't the sea the fish's home? And you are right, the sea is their home. But for me, sometimes I feel like a small fish trapped in the vast sea being swept away by the strong tidal waves of the ocean. Having spent so much time away from my home, my culture, and my people, I began to lose touch on who I am and my own self. I've been taught to go with the flow and to not speak out, so I did just that. I swam with the current of the sea, beginning to lose touch on where I was from. I wonder, after I set sail from my home, after how many days, months, and years will have to have finally passed until my home leaves me. My culture is drawn right onto my body, like scales onto a fish, but for me, I feel more like a fish that's been ripped away from its origins, washed out by the powerful waves of the salty ocean. The stereotypes and judgments of who I should be surrounds and traps me like a fish in a net. Except I am unable to fulfill the constant demanding standards and requirements coming at me from both sides of the sea. People will start to expect me to be good at certain aspects in life. They ask for me for help in math, assuming I will understand the content any better than them, based off a brief judgment of my looks. But in reality, when I look at math, I quickly find that I become a fish that has come face to face with a shark. People start to ask me where I'm from, but I don't know the answer. I can't tell them which side of the ocean I'm from. When I go back to China, it slowly feels like I'm a visitor, an outsider. It feels like a small fish has trapped itself into an area surrounded by predators. Some of my friends will ask me to teach them a phrase or a sentence or a word in Chinese, but quickly I find I become tongue-tied as I search for what to say. My relatives will speak to me in my language, but my mind and tongue only get lost in the Atlantic, just like a small fish being swept away by the sea. I have swam too long with the current, and that has softened my character. I have came out weaker than before. I start to ask myself who I am, or who I've become. I start to think if I'm just a fish in the middle of this monstrous sea, unable to reach the shores. My identity has become blurred, like murky waters in the sea blocking me from seeing who I am. I've gone to the bottom of the sea, away from the sun, away from others, being drowned out by my own surrounding. I want to break away from these shackles that chain me to the sea, but I'm stuck swimming in the same position. As time moves on, slowly, I allow the waves to wash over me. And as the waves carry me forward, I learn to love myself and those surrounding me, refusing to let the words of the others sting me. Now, the sea is never the same. It's always filled with changes and unexpected waves. There's a type of fish I would like to introduce to you, the salmon. Salmon fishes have the ability to swim upstream against the current, and we too can be like salmon and swim against the current. We have the ability to come together and make a change for others in this community. Together, we are able to change the perception people have of us and make the lives of those around us better. We can be like salmon swimming in school lanes, helping the fish who are lost in the sea. Assembled guests.
Thank you, Enoch. It is important to learn from a different perspective. Now that we have heard Enoch's speech, it is time for her impromptu question. This is the first time she will be hearing this question. Enoch, I will read the question to you twice. Your question is it better to live glass half full or glass half empty? Again, your question is it better to live glass half full or glass half empty?
Well, thank you, Ella, first of all, for that question. I think it's a great question and a great question for us to think about. As we continue to live, as we continue to grow as people, it's important for us to remember that the glass can be both half full and half empty. For different people, there's different perspectives and how we view the world. But as we move forward, we will learn that there are different parts of our world that come into play. And those points, they come into play showing us different parts of the world, and that shapes us into believing whether our world should be lived thinking half full or half empty. On my perspective, as I slowly grow and I learn and I develop, I learn that it's better to live thinking my glass is half full rather than half empty. I think to myself more positively. I think that the glass should be half full rather than empty. Because if it's empty, I move away from the positive thoughts, and slowly it seems as if the negative thoughts might consume me. But as you think the glass is half full, you allow the positive energies and thoughts to come to you. And furthermore, when you move on, you become more positive as a person.
Thank you, Enoch. Next to present her speech is Chelsea Liu. Chelsea told us that her favorite book is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak because the character development is very sophisticated and because the story is narrated by death. Another fun fact about Chelsea is that she used to have a pet duckling who had a very special bond with her. Without further ado, here is Chelsea and her speech entitled, Good Things Take Time.
What do you want to be when you grow up? We have all been asked that question before sometime in our life. And when I was 6 years old, I said the very first thing that came to my mind. I wanted to be an artist. I've always loved the idea of expressing emotions just through a stroke of a paintbrush. Good afternoon, honorable judges, youth ambassadors, fellow candidates, and welcome guests. Success is something that everyone wants. People spend days, months, even years to chase after it. And the reality is that not everyone can achieve it, or at least not all who persist long enough can achieve it. Success is not luck, but rather a gift that is given to those who never gave up. I was 4 years old when my mom decided to take me to my very first art class. She thought I was too hyper and needed a way to just sit down and relax. When the nice art teacher placed a blank sheet of paper right in front of me, I decided to rip it up into shreds as soon as she turned her head away. But after that one single art class, I couldn't stop drawing after that. I hate to admit it, but I was that one kid that loved to decorate my bedroom walls with my lovely crayons. As years passed by, art has been my only passion. It was a reason why I got perfect grades at school. It was a reason why I never got bored at home. And it was the reason why my parents were so proud. When grade 8 passed by, my mom decided it was time to start thinking about my art portfolio for university. And suddenly, I was overwhelmed with the amount of pressure that was put onto my shoulders. That's when my mom asked me again, what do you want to be when you grow up? And for the very first time in my life, I was unsure. I knew deep down that my skills were not good enough to make a living out of art. I knew that I wasn't able to sit down for 6 hours a day to draw that porcelain sculpture with a pencil and a piece of paper. And I didn't exactly want to end up being Vincent van Gogh, who only sold one painting in his entire life and only gained fame after he died. Just imagine how much motivation he needed in order to continue his career as a painter. I constantly compared myself to those who were good, and I found that it really brought down my self-esteem. But I didn't even pause to think about how many hours they spent practicing. I realized that art was something that takes years and years of practice to get better, and it's not just something you can master overnight. After taking a break from art for over 2 years, I realized that you don't fail when you fall down. You fail, you fall down, and then refuse to get up. And for over 2 years, I refused to get up. Zig Ziglar once said, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first. And so 4 months ago, I picked up my paintbrush again. Visualize this with me. After a long, windy road of failure, you've finally reached your destination, and that's success. It might have not been easy, but you made it. Getting up is what falls are for, so go and pick up your paintbrush. Assembled guests.
Thank you, Chelsea. It is so inspiring to see someone chasing after their dreams. Now that we have heard Chelsea's speech, it is time for her impromptu question. And this is the first time she will be hearing this question. Chelsea, I will read the question to you twice. Your question is, if you could be a famous person for a day, who would you be and why? Again, your question is, if you could be a famous person for a day, who would you be and why?
Thank you, Karina, for the question. If I could be a famous person for a day, who would it be and why? When I think about that question, I think about what famous people would do in their day. They probably wouldn't go to the market to buy food. They wouldn't go out shopping in a mall, because at a mall or like somewhere in public, they would probably get swarmed with people. They would have very great difficulties moving around, traveling everywhere, just having fun, being a normal human being. If I were to be a famous person for a day, if I think about that question, my answer would be I would choose to not be anyone famous. I would just choose to be myself, because if you want to become someone else, there's already someone out there like that. So the best choice is to just be yourself, because you are the best version of yourself.
Thank you, Chelsea. Next to present her speech is Maria Mishenko. We asked Maria what reality TV show she would be on, and she told us that she would love to be on a Russian reality TV show called Fashion Trial. This is a show where a person without style goes out and gets a makeover. Maria would love to be on it for many of the perks, including a fashion history book. The accomplishment Maria is most proud of is winning Best Junior Sound Design at BC Student Film Festival in 2019. Throughout her time in the program, we have noticed how inquisitive and curious she is, always jumping to ask questions that we haven't even thought of. Without further ado, here is Maria and her speech entitled, What Makes a Hero?
Recently, I watched the greatest crossover movie to have ever been made, Marvel's Endgame. From gripping twists, tears, and happy endings, most importantly, I saw superheroes doing what they do best, saving our butts. The action scenes had the kid in me going crazy. Good evening, fellow ambassadors, adjudicators, and welcome guests. Today I'll be wondering, what does being a hero mean? When I was a kid, being a superhero was my dream. I wanted to fight all the bad guys and shoot the bad guys with laser eyes and go pow! The city saved. Unfortunately, when I grew a little older, I found out it's impossible to shoot lasers with your eyes, and I would rather let Superman do it anyway. Still, while I can't be a superhero, I wonder if I can just be a hero. I mean, is being a hero really only about flashy, sparkly suits and a great theme song? In the Marvel Universe, being a superhero means saving New York every 2 days. It also means tons of cool gadgets, a little bit of magic, and a healthy sprinkling of aliens. But what about the heroes themselves? Why are they heroes? Well, they saw something wrong with the world, and they did something about it. Very physical, very dangerous threats came to New York City, and they did something about it. They were also somewhat qualified or prepared to deal with it, and even when they were terrified, they still persevered and saved the city and the rest of the world. But what about in the modern world? In the modern world, heroes don't destroy robots with lightning hammers. In our world, heroes fight very different problems and in very different ways. Can you think of a hero that shaped the world we know today? I can. Terry Fox, a man who ran across Canada on a prosthetic leg to raise money for cancer research. A man whose efforts continue to raise money and his story continues to be told. A man who's undoubtedly a Canadian hero. But why? Simple. He saw what was wrong in the world and he did something about it. He looked at himself, thought about what he could do, and he did it. And what about Martin Luther King Jr.? He's a hero too. He saw what was wrong in the world and he chose to protest. Decades later, he's still a symbol of a movement crucial to North American history. It's easy to put these people on a pedestal, to look up to them as symbols or as the true great heroes, and convince ourselves that we will never be as great as them. But that's just simply not true. We can all be heroes in our own unique way. We just have to see what is wrong with the world and do something about it. Margaret Mead once said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world." Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Every great hero has started small, just trying to do better. While we may not have flying powers, hey, maybe someday, or God on our side with Tony Stark's high-tech suit, we have the power to change the world. Remember, you're still a hero for making sure everybody's voice is heard in the group conversation, or running an errand for a stressed friend, or even organizing a small cleanup party on the beach. You saw what was wrong with the world, and you did something about it. That's what makes a hero. Assembled guests.
Thank you, Maria. You have changed my opinion on the definition of a hero. Now that we have heard Maria's speech, it is time for her impromptu question. This is the first time she will be hearing this question. Maria, I will read the question to you twice. Your question is, what is the greatest gift we can give others? Again, your question is, what is the greatest gift we can give others?
I believe the greatest gift we can give to others is not anything physical, but something that comes from the heart and is genuine. And that I call kindness, specifically acts of kindness or a listening ear. There's a lot of people in the world that need help, and just doing something for them from the heart, without expectation of having something in return, I believe is the greatest thing we could do for anyone. Kindness is important because it just makes people feel better. And you don't need a lot of money or any at all to simply be a good person, because if everyone is a good person, then, well, our society will be perfect.
Thank you, Maria. Next to present her speech is Kaya Patel. If Kaya was going to have coffee with anyone in the world, she would be accompanied by Bruce Springsteen. She feels he is an amazing storyteller and would love to learn about his experiences in the music industry. Kaya also loves to bake. Everything she bakes is gluten-free, as her mom is celiac, and she even has a baking account where she posts photos of her baked goods. While working with Kaya, we have noticed her constant positivity and dedication to the program. Without further ado, here is Kaya and her speech entitled, How Sports Can Help You Throughout Life.
What do people think of when they think of playing sports? Do they think of activities that keep you active and healthy? Well, sports can do so much more than that. It can build problem-solving skills, spark new friendships, and develop communication skills. Good evening, honorable judges, youth ambassadors, fellow candidates, and welcome guests. Tonight, I'm here to tell you how sports can help you throughout life. In sports, one must be able to learn how to adjust and solve problems with others. When playing sports, one may be playing against a team who is able to read their plays very well, and because of this, the team is losing. The person's team must learn from what the opposition is doing and adjust. This allows players to think quickly on their feet to solve the problem. A time I had to problem solve with my team was when my volleyball team was competing for the bronze medal in provincials. It was a tough match as the points were going back and forth, but my team and I were constantly figuring out ways to outsmart the other team, and it worked. We ended up winning because we adjusted quickly and worked together. This relates to a work environment. Imagine you work for a marketing company and you have to pitch to a very big client. You have to be able to read the client's body language, and if the client does not seem responsive or interested in your pitch, you have to adjust quickly to regain their interest. Sports enables you to build friendships and teaches you how to establish connections with people whom you may not have met otherwise. When playing for a team, you become a kind of family. Even if you wouldn't have imagined yourself with certain people, the goals and athleticism that you share have a way of bringing you together.
I've made numerous friends through sports, many of whom I've stayed in contact with, despite the great distances. I found it is always possible to stay connected with friends through means such as the internet. This is especially true with one of my dearest friends that I've met on one of my volleyball teams. Although she lives in Delta, we continue to grow our friendship and stay very close. Furthermore, sports can help you learn how to communicate with people. When on the court, you have to talk to your teammates so you all know what the play will be. If you don't, you can mess things up greatly. For example, when I'm playing with my volleyball team, we have to communicate with each other. I have to tell my teammates what I'm thinking, and they have to tell me what they're thinking as well. So we all work together to win. Remember, there's no I in team. And really, your teammates and your coaches are really just your future coworkers and bosses. In the end, sports can help you with so much more than getting into shape. It can help you problem solve on the go, build everlasting friendships, and help you learn how to communicate better. So welcome guests. Get out there and play, no matter what level or how old you are. Sports will help you every single day of your life.
Thank you, Kaya. It seems that sports really have changed your life. Now that we have heard Kaya's speech, it is time for an impromptu question. This is the first time she'll be hearing this question. Kaya, I will read the question to you twice. Your question is, what are the advantages of being a woman? Again, your question is, what are the advantages of being a woman?
That is a great question. Some of the advantages of being a woman would include being able to be so confident in yourself that you really just don't care what other people think. You, as a woman, you need to be able to accept other women and not put them down just because you don't believe in what they think as well. Being a woman means having to accept and be friendly and kind to everyone. As a woman, I think that as long as we're keeping each other up and bringing each other up and staying positive and helping our community and helping out our friends, I think that's a great thing to do.
Thank you, Kaya. Next to present her speech is Simone Poirier. If Simone were to have tea or coffee with anyone, she would choose either Amelia Earhart or Hugh Jackman. She admires them both for their courage and their ability to stay themselves despite what others around them may think. Simone's favorite kind of music is 60s to 90s rock because she loves the beat and the exciting lyrics. We have noticed Simone's personal growth in the program, specifically through her self-awareness. Without further ado, here is Simone and her speech entitled, What Drives You?
Passion can be described as a drive to do something above and beyond anything else. Good evening, honorable judges, youth ambassadors, fellow candidates, and welcome guests. Have you ever felt compelled to do something above and beyond anything else? The satisfaction they achieve is what anyone could hope for. People love things while others might not. People lead different lives and have different experiences that result in different perspectives on life, about what is fun and exciting, giving opportunities to find their passion. I have met people where their entire outlook on life is that we only have one life, so why waste it by worrying about things out of our control when we can experience the world we live in, do things we actually enjoy. People focus on their jobs and the list they've created, time, the seconds, the minutes we hold ourselves to. Yes, this is important, but should it be what we focus on? Don't worry, you don't need to know what drives you right away. Took me a while. My passion includes sports, being outside, and working with others for a common goal, to win and feel the excitement. I have played soccer for many years, and I have met so many incredible people, each having captivating stories to tell. I don't think people can always express what their passion is. The only way I can describe it as something that makes you feel warm when you think about it, and all you want to do is that passion. Sports have given me a release to get away from the things that worry me, being free and in the moment. This brings me back to my original question. Why are some people driven towards things that others find absurd, something dangerous, to push your body to the limit through conditions that damage your body, like climbing Mount Everest? This question was posed to a young 15-year-old whose dream was to climb. His only reply was that he loved to climb. He didn't know what else to say, so they could understand. In the New York Post, Rich Meyer says conquering the challenge is the motivation. He states that even though people from the past have already succeeded in climbing, it also is about vanquishing the enemy, not literally, but figuratively. At the beginning, I stated that people's experiences and memories can define what their drive is. The feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction shows them that it is not just another activity. It could be something small. You might not even know the impact it could have on you. It can take someone a lifetime to find what truly drives them. I believe that we might not know what drives us right away, but that's part of growing and searching in life. How does one find what they love? This is not a one-answer-fits-all solution. The first step could be to be happy with who you are. The second step is to try different activities, to read, to meet new people, and find others with the same interests. When you have a drive, a love for something, it can make you feel like you can do anything and truly makes you excited. Without a passion, you will run out of the energy long before you have your desired result. Having met people who have passions that are dangerous and challenging, their drive to succeed demanded fortitude, especially to overcome the physical and emotional challenges. Why is all this important? Well, we all want to be happy, but people tend to be afraid to go for what makes them happy, whether it's because someone else thinks they shouldn't or they're afraid they won't succeed. Your passion should be something worth achieving. You don't have to be the best at it, but if it's something that burns deep inside of you, why wouldn't you go for it? Passion gives you the opportunity to learn, giving you reasons to possibly travel, common interests with others, fostering social bonds, and giving you a purpose. I've become convinced that one of the greatest supports to a person's happiness is passion. So if you find it, don't be afraid to go for it. Assembled guests.
Thank you, Simone. It was really great to hear what drives you. Now that we have heard Simone's speech, it is time for her impromptu question. This is the first time she will be hearing this question. Simone, I will read the question to you twice. Your question is, what does friendship mean to you? Again, your question is, what does friendship mean to you?
Friendship, I believe, is a very big part of life. If you don't have friendship, it tends to make people feel alone and that they don't have anyone. As well, when you are about to have a relationship with someone, it's best to start off as friends to really get to know them and then continue. Friendship gives people the opportunity to better themselves, to find what other people's opinions are, and to continue with that, to really give yourself more opinions in life and to have so many different perspectives. Having friendship can get you to do friends can get you to do things that you might not have done on your own, and it can give you so many experiences that you might not have had. They can really just be there for you and be someone to rest your head on when you're sad and to tell all your secrets to, and really just let yourself be you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Simone. The final candidate to present her speech is Emily Tepper. Emily has always expressed her love of the water, which is reflected in her biggest accomplishment, being assigned head coach of her school's swim team. Her favorite part about living in White Rock is visiting the ocean and the pier. In her free time, Emily likes working out because of the many health benefits and how she feels after. In the time that we have gotten to know her, Emily has been super positive and supportive of her fellow candidates. Without further ado, Here is Emily and her speech entitled Different.
Imagine two girls. Both of them are autistic. The first girl is a very quick learner, has clear speech, and makes friends super easily. You would call her high functioning. Now imagine the second girl. She often struggles with sensory overload, has trouble maintaining eye contact, and doesn't understand most social situations. You might call her low functioning. Now what if I told you that these girls were actually the same girl, and that same girl is me? Honorable judges, youth ambassadors, fellow candidates, and welcome guests. My name is Emily Tepper, and I am a candidate for the 2020 White Rock Youth Ambassador team. Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder that is caused by genetics, characterized by problems with social interactions, including sensory problems, eye contact problems, and speech problems. Can also be characterized by special interests and a need for routine. There are many different labels within the autistic community, such as high and low functioning. Many people think of the spectrum as a scale, ranging from high to low. But really, you could think of it as a color wheel, with all of the traits lined up around the edges. Some of these traits may be on a much higher level than others, and some of them may be much lower or even non-existent. It is often hard to tell when someone is high or low functioning just by looking at them. Many of us, especially people like me, who got a much later diagnosis, have mastered the art of masking. Masking is when we pretend and act as though we are neurotypical, because from a young age we realized we didn't fit in with everyone else. We often studied the other normal kids, so we could try and fit in as normal ourselves. And it made it very difficult to know who we truly are later in life after we've been masking for so long. Oftentimes, when someone sees an autistic person stimming, which is short for self-stimulatory behavior, and is any type of repeated noise or movement, they might assume that they are low functioning just because of it. Did you know neurotypical people do this too? When you pace around because you're thinking about something, or you jump around because you're just so happy, that is stimming. So the person you saw doing it is just doing a different, more intense version of it. People often might see me skipping or jumping around in public, flopping my arms, and give me weird looks and think, wow, what a weirdo. But if they got to know me, they would realize that I am, in fact, a functioning human being. So really, it's not low or high functioning, it's just differently functioning. One reason I don't like the low functioning label is because it is often judged off of how that person can function in regards to other people's convenience. Someone who is nonverbal may be considered more low functioning than me, even though along the wheel, speech may be the only thing they really struggle with, as opposed to someone like me who has a lot more of the invisible traits. This is because some people believe it's easier to speak with people in their own conventional way, instead of maybe having to point or write things down to communicate. So before you judge, remember, we are not low or high functioning, just differently functioning. And different is pretty cool. Assembled guests.
Thank you, Emily. That was a very educational speech. Now that we have heard Emily's speech, it is time for her impromptu question. This is the first time she'll be hearing this question, and Emily, I will read the question to you twice. Your question is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Again, your question is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Thank you, Karina, for the excellent question. I think failure holds a lot of people back in certain aspects of life. I think a lot of people, if they always assume that they're going to fail at whatever they do, so it might hold them back a lot. So they often are afraid to try new things and don't want to step out of their comfort zone. I think for me, a lot of time that applies to me as well. So I often don't want to try many new things because I'm scared of what people might think or the failure that might come with it. I think if I knew that I couldn't fail at anything, then I would try a whole lot more new things and that I wouldn't be so uncomfortable to try a lot of those new things. I think failure is something that holds a lot of people back in life, and that if people did not think that they could fail at things, then they would often try and step out of their comfort zones a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. That concludes today's event, and thank you to everyone who joined us on Zoom to watch. We will now be posting a poll in which we are asking you to choose your favorite speech. These results will be combined with our talent survey for this year's People's Choice Award. The poll that should be on your screen now asks you to pick one of the candidates. Please do so now. As for the talent portion of our People's Choice Award, you are also able to go vote for it. You can find all the details on our Instagram, and in the chat now, you can see our Instagram link, which will lead you right to our account. We know that this has been a challenging time for many community organizations and ambassador programs. All of us from the White Rock Youth Ambassadors have really come to appreciate what opportunities distancing has provided for our online training. We have also loved seeing the unique and creative ways that our community has found to still get together and appreciate our city by the sea. We hope to see you all again at our ambassador crowning ceremony on August 8th, which will be live streaming on our Instagram and posted to our website. Thank you all for your support, and we hope you have a fabulous day.